Now, former President Olusegun Obasanjo says his administration persuaded Shell PLC to run Nigeria's refineries, but the international oil company rejected the offer, citing too much corruption in the oil sector. Obasanjo disclosed this in a recent interview with Financial Times. He also expressed concerns over the country's continued reliance on crude oil, saying it is a deadly mistake. The former president also said some prominent individuals benefiting from fuel importation would make efforts to frustrate the Dangote oil refinery and petrochemicals in Lagos State. He added that if the Dangote refinery succeeds, it could boost Nigeria's economy. Public affairs analyst Jide Ojo joins us now to discuss Obasanjo's observations of corruption in the oil sector and Nigeria's mistake over relying on crude oil rather than on agriculture. Thank you for joining us on Newsday. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's my pleasure.
Now, I'd like to start by getting your comment on the former president's statement saying that it is dangerous, our over-reliance on crude oil. Now, this isn't the first time this kind of comments will be raised. We've heard even some people say that the discovery of oil in the 50s has become a curse rather than a blessing to Nigeria's economy. What do you make of this comment?
Exactly what you just said. We are one of the countries that could be regarded as suffering from resource costs. Resource costs from literature, if you read up what is meant by resource costs, you find out that many of the countries that are blessed with mineral resources or natural resources, let me put it more appropriately, usually suffer from underdevelopment. And you ask yourself, I mean, countries like Japan, which is under severe threat of landslides and earthquake, is today an industrial giant. China is an industrial giant. But look at Africa. Almost all the countries of Africa with huge natural mineral deposits are at war, or at best underdeveloped, having high rate of poverty, unemployment, and infrastructural deficit. So more or less, the blessings, divine blessings of having these natural resources in abundance across the country has really not translated into any meaningful development for us. And to that extent, I agree with former President Olusegun Obasanjo, but he's not the first person to have identified this as a problem. The literature is replete with different studies, researches that have lent credence to this. And it's just because of lack of proper management of our public finance. I mean, the United Nations Office of Drugs and Crime, UNODC, said over $50 billion are stolen from Africa every year. Just imagine what $50 billion could do to economy of the 54 African states. And when you look more particularly at Nigeria, forget about the very short period of former head of state, General Yakubu Gowon, when he declared that Nigeria has so much money, but we don't know what to do with it. I think successive administration after that have helped him to find what to do with it. And it's not to develop our infrastructure or to improve our living standard, but to help the ruling elite, whether they are military or civilian. And that has been the problem. We could not have been blessed. We could not have asked for better blessing from God. When you consider even untapped solid minerals that we have in Nigeria, apart from our oil resources, not to talk of gas, you could not have asked for anything better. But when it comes to management, prudent management of public finance, that's where you have the problem. Look at how much Nigeria is losing to oil theft every day. Every day. In the president's speech, President Tinubu's speech on Sunday, he alluded to the fact that we have now attained 1.6 million barrels per day. Meanwhile, the 2024 project, the 2024 budget was premised on, I think, 1.8 million barrels per day, or about 2.1 million barrels per day. So we are still far from what our revenue projection is supposed to be, and no thanks to oil theft in the Niger Delta region. So this is majorly a huge challenge for our authorities, managers of Nigeria's public finance, from the federal to state to local government. While we have been at the receiving end, we have high rate of unemployment, high rate of poverty, infrastructural deficit. We are not on the way to attaining any of the sustainable development goals, 17 of them. Nigeria is not in a pole position to achieve any of the 17 development goals. And then when you look at all development indices, whether you are looking at United Nations Development Index, or you are looking at Mystery Index, or you are looking at Corruption Perception Index, or you are looking at woman maternal mortality or infant mortality, they are always on the high side. And that is to tell you that the real problem of Nigeria is not just knowing what the problem is, but fixing those problems that stares us in the face.
You know, another instructive comment he made is the fact that he faulted the president, that's President Bola Tinubu's approach to removing fuel subsidies, saying that he could have put some cushioning effect in place before removing the fuel subsidy, and that the approach had a negative impact on the nation's inflation. What are your thoughts on this?
It's very spot on. Even myself, I blamed President Bola Tinubu for not doing an audit before making that pronouncement of oil subsidies, fuel subsidy is gone. I think, as somebody who has worked in the oil sector, is he an accountant or an auditor in Mobil Producing Unlimited, from what we are told, he should have known that before you make such pronouncement on the day of your inauguration, you ought to have been kept abreast of what the true situation of things are. As I speak with you, my dear sister, we were promised that Port Harcourt refineries was going to be ready in December of 2022. From December 2022, the goalposts have been shifted more than 5 times. In fact, we are waiting with bated breath whether what Mele Kyari will come to pass when he said Port Harcourt refinery will start producing in the month of August 2024. But it gives no room for comfort, given the missed opportunities, several missed pronouncements that Port Harcourt refinery was on its way to full production. Now, we have a Dangote refinery that was commissioned on May 24, 2023. And obviously, as at the time of the commissioning, the complex was not fully ready for operations. But nevertheless, it took about 7-8 months. It's now on stream. And now we are hearing all manner of issues from not wanting to, NNPC not wanting to sell crude to Dangote, and Dangote having to import crude oil from abroad, or, the IOCs, international oil companies, selling like $3-4 above what the prevailing market price is to him, in which case he may not be able to produce in a way that will make Nigerians to afford this product. Or even the so-called freedom slip, if I can call it, by the Isaiah Ahmed Farouk, who said Dangote refinery is producing dirty fuel, and that is even 45% completed. We have seen the back and forth around this issue. And it tells you that, just like President Olusegun Obasanjo said, that there are forces that are meant to frustrate the Dangote refinery from operating. Because once you take away that fuel importation from there, they will be out of business. And until the president is able to do that, to slay that monster of fuel, I recall that under Babangida regime, I think, if my memory serves me right, that was when we started this first subsidy thing. And it was meant to last for 6 months. Now, 6 months has become over 30 years, and we are yet to exit this issue of fuel subsidy and fuel importation. And we will not exit that fuel importation unless the president develops the political will to deal with the cabal that is holding us down, that has not made Port Harcourt refineries and any of our national refineries to work, and that is even trying to frustrate the Dangote refinery from successfully taking off. Because the only pot of this cabal is fuel importation. And the more we import fuel, the more we run the economy of those European and Asian countries from where we import refined petroleum products. And that's why I feel that what the president should have done before announcing that fuel subsidy is gone is first to get an on-the-spot assessment of Port Harcourt refinery and then the Dangote refinery, and had a frank discussion with them. Gentlemen, when do you think we will be self-sufficient and independence on fuel importation? And then that will give him, and even if he has to delay that pronouncement by 6 months or by 1 year. I recall that in Kenya, William Ruto actually have to extend fuel subsidy for like 6 months after he took over. So that's what President Tinubu should have done, rather than just without even appraising himself of what the real situation on ground is. Maybe he just read the handover note, and whatever they wrote in the handover note for him, he believed it as a gospel truth. But what is staring us in the face now is that we have been taken for a ride. That Port Harcourt refinery, despite over, I don't know whether it's $15 billion that was borrowed from the Exim Bank of China to fix that refinery, we have not been able to get it to start production. This administration is 14 months in office. What is really happening? I expected President Tinubu to have even visited Port Harcourt, go to that place and see things for himself, rather than just rely on what his Minister of States are telling him.
All right,
he is the substantive Minister of Petroleum Resources.
Point taken. Let's stay a bit more on the refineries. You just touched on the 4 refineries, which of course have been moribund for years now. We know that the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, said he persuaded Shell PLC to take over the refineries, but they said they were going to stay away because of the corruption in that sector. And one wonders, who are these corrupt elements? Because we know that even the president of Dangote Refineries, Aliko Dangote, also alluded to the fact that there were some mafias who were not going to make the refinery work. Who are these cabals that you also talked about?
Well, I'm not working in the intelligence community, but government knows them. They might as well be the same people who bankrolled the election of Mr. President. They might as well be those high and mighty people that we look up to as role model in society. They might as well be people you least expected will have a hand in undermining the development of their country. But the question I am asking, I'm not the I'm not the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. But Mr. President could not have pretended or claimed not to have an idea of those who are holding us by the jugular. I said this because every administration that comes to power talks about this cabal. And you will have thought that by now they should have unveiled the identity of these people. They are part of us. Many of them are Nigerians from what we are told. I recall there was an interview by former governor of Bauchi State, Issa Yuguda, which also alluded to this cabal thing in an interview on a TV station. And everybody talks about them. Aliko Dangote came out and was even more bold to mention that some people in NNPC has a refinery or a blending plant in Malta. And even though everybody in NNPC claimed not to be the one, we know that wherever we are importing this fuel from, it's not, you cannot look further from those countries and those who are promoting those interests, because it's like when you look at people who are profiting from the status quo. Anyone that is not wanting the status quo to go should be classified as those who do not want this country to exit this slave servitude of fuel importation. And I believe the intelligence community, there are over 20 intelligence agencies in Nigeria. I believe if President Tinubu wants to know the real identity of those who are plundering the oil wealth of this country, including those who are involved in oil theft, I believe he could have that information. I recall that there was, sometimes last year, the founder of Tantita Security Firm, I think that's Tom Polo, if I'm not mistaken. At some point, he came out and said that he has names of those who are involved in the oil theft in Niger Delta region. But, you know, he didn't come out to publish that name. But if somebody high up there who is in Niger Delta, who is involved in security and securing the pipelines of Nigeria's in the Niger Delta region, if he could open his mouth and said, I have list of Nigerians who are plundering, who are involved in oil theft, I feel that the intelligence community should have gone to him or invited him to come and maybe give them the identity or give them the names of those who are involved. He made that open disclosure, and to the best of my mind, no official invitation has been extended to him. And so you find that it's very difficult for somebody who is a layman like me to mention names. I don't have names. I don't know who they are. But those who are in the intelligence community should know. And if somebody, as I've earlier mentioned, who came out publicly to say, I know the identity of these people who are involved in oil theft. You may say oil theft is not the same thing as not making our refineries to work. But it's part of the rot in the oil sector. You may not look too far from those who are involved in oil theft and those who do not want the refineries to work. I think I will leave it at that. I don't work in the intelligence community, but as the president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces, if he does not know the identity of these people by now, I believe if he asks the National Office of National Security Advisor, should be able to help him in getting the identities of these people.
Oh, well, we'll have to just leave the conversation there. Apparently, there is still so much to talk about, and we hope that the government of the day does the needful to ease the pressure of the hardship in the country for Nigerians. A very big thank you to you, Jide Ojo, Public Affairs Analyst, for joining us on Newsday.